Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring Dawn of War 2 mod. Red-Rupee here calling the shots for you tonight as always, and we've got another one-on-one back on Green Tooth Gorge. This is actually a monthly Rumble 14 match, and this is a player I wanted to cast but didn't get a chance to because he got knocked out too early. But anyways, I won't say who, so we can keep the suspense going. We've got on the blue side Vapor as the Orc Commando Knob, and on the red side, his opponent Cyris bringing the big bad Terminator brother captain onto the field. So Grey Knights versus Orcs. Last time we saw Orcs in the monthly Rumble tournament, I believe my favorite was Mathis running some triple sluggers, but this time around we've got a more traditional opening. We got the double shooters and the slugger boys. Cyris bringing the second squad of Inquisitorial Stormtroopers onto the field. Not super familiar with this matchup, Commando Knob versus Brother Captain. We'll have to see how it plays out. I think the Stormtroopers will actually have a bit of a hard time trying to move around on the map and get any sort of capping done. Of course, the Commando Knob can sneak around and engage them. He's actually looking for trouble right now. He saw the Brother Captain, doesn't want to engage that. Looking for something to shoot up and maybe whittle down for the coming engagements. That's kind of what we see Commando Knob do early on, is search around the map while cloaked and try to soften up a squad to maybe get an edge on a coming engagement. Right now, first squad of Stormtroopers found themselves a couple squads of Orcs. Didn't work out for them. Commando Knob found himself some Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, managed to pick off a model, but now finding himself in a bad spot between Strike Squad and the Brother Captain himself. Trying to drop a stun bomb down there, but now with the other squad of Stormtroopers right in the thick of it, he's going to have to just fall back. And that didn't actually work out for him. He managed to pick off a model, but now he won't have his Commando Knob for whatever engagement is to come. But as it stands right now, he's just kind of spread out, kind of capping all over the map. See how this plays out going into the next engagement. Right now, the Brother Captain's looking to pick a fight, running around with his Strike Squad. None of the Orcs will really be able to hand up to this kind of meat, as they are unupgraded at the moment. Slugger boys found themselves some Inquisitorial Stormtroopers to try to punch, but as it stands, they're just going to get the kiting around right now, chasing one squad while the other opens up. But the shooter boys were there to help out. Cyris trying to do little stutter step right there, turn and fire and keep on the retreat. Stormtroopers do have a pretty impressive range and some reasonable burst damage as well. You can see that's their whole volley right there. So they can just turn and fire on a second or two and get most of their damage in if they keep on the move. Loot is on the field and Big Shoot is getting upgraded for Vapor right now. Both sides starting to upgrade their power. Vapor, of course, looking a little better on the tech race than Cyris with just the one generator. As we saw before, though, or as we talked before with Cyris, he did mention that he tends to go a more wreck-heavy build in the early game with Grey Knights. He'll get the 2 Stormtrooper squads and then probably one more, either a Purgation squad or Interceptor, something along those lines. Purgation squad going to be very powerful right now against the current Orc makeup. There's really not a lot that the Orcs have that can deal with that. If they find them out of position with the Ludas, they can kind of keep them under control, or if the Commando Knob himself can run up and keep them in melee. But as it stands, those Purgation squads are going to just shred through. Yeah, look at these shooter boys. Oh man, the burning, the fire. And there goes the lone Knob heading on home. Oh, is he actually going to go down? Wow, escapes with 9 HP, just barely. Brother Captain runs right into a face full of loot of fire, but manages to keep himself around half HP, leaving the rest of the Orcs for all of these other Grey Knights to deal with. And they have certainly enough firepower that they're going to be able to do so. Brother Captain now falling back once again as the loot has hopped inside of that garrison. They better hope that that Purgation squad doesn't come back out to find them, because they'll get taken out pretty quickly with those 3 flamers. Those, I believe they're called incinerators that the Purgation squad has. All is quiet for the moment as Cyris is bringing himself a Rhino onto the field here in just a moment. Buddha Boy's squad trying to get back into position to scare off his Brother Captain, at least stop the cap if nothing else. Won't allow him to stand around. It's good to keep the pressure on wherever you can. Keep that Brother Captain low on health. He is getting the Blessed Aegis, so he's probably not going to be retreating that Brother Captain despite being low on health. He wants to keep him on the field as much as he can. Current 2-0 cap for Cyris against Vapor. Vapor's coming back out. Oh, here we go. Here's a good way to deal with that Purgation squad. Commando Knob got himself the Assassin's Knife. And now with these shooter boys nice and upgraded, they're actually going to be able to put quite a bit of pressure on that approaching Brother Captain. And even this Rhino, which is taking tons of heavy fire, a couple swings from that Commando's assassin knife. Imagine just going up to a Rhino and poking it with a knife. I guess maybe he broke the treads. I don't know. It's always funny when you see that. I can imagine a transport falling to an overwhelming amount of small arms fire, or maybe some of those like big power weapons that you see that can supposedly slice through armor. But it's kind of funny imagining a commando just running up and stabbing a big armored transport with a knife. It must be quite a knife. Although I guess if you ask anyone that's encountered some good assassin's knife commando play, it is quite a knife. Stormtroopers finding themselves on the wrong end of some orc aggression just decide to hightail it out of there. 496 to 408. Vapor finally starting to pull some VPs off of the board for Cyris. Loot is hanging back right now. Need to open fire on that purgation squad. They get revealed. Purgation gets suppressed now. Commando Knob goes in swinging. Brother Captain's trying to interrupt him. Trip a shot goes down, knocks him back, gives him a little stun, and now looks like with this supporting fire that the Commando Knob should be able to pretty easily deal with this Brother Captain. The great thing about that knife, it does, I think, something like 70 DPS or something like that. I'm trying to learn my DPS numbers a little better, but he actually swings really quick with that thing. The attack speed very high on that weapon. You can see him just hacking up over here. Uh-oh, Stormboy's on the field, and that power melee can make short work of that Rhino. He's got to be very careful. Not to mention, I don't even think it was the Stormboys. I think it was just all that big shooter fire along with the Luda on top of it. Stormboys might have gotten a few swings in there, but the scary part is that Strike Squad now getting caught out of position. Luckily, the Purgation Squad was there to provide some supporting fire, slowed those Stormboys down, sent them packing. And that's a quick early loss for Cyris. Cyris just brought that Rhino out, and really it hadn't accomplished much as it stands. Luda Boys get suppressed by the Purgation Squad. Nice looking flank right there, but counter suppression going down from the big shooters. Aiming what's that, trying to keep the Purgation Squad under control, but it just wasn't quite enough. It doesn't really last too long. That spot suppression only lasts for a few seconds, and now that's going to open up Cyris to come back onto the field. He did lose, I think, a generator or two over here thanks to some marauding Slugger Boys with those flamers. You can see Vapor was using everything but the Slugger Boys. That's pretty common to use your main force separate from your Slugger Boys, so your Slugger Boys can get in there to get some gen bashes in. So if you don't see those Slugger Boys with the main orc forces, you better be keeping an eye on your gen farm. Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, one of them upgraded with their Sarge, so they will have access to that quick grenade that they have access to. The grenade that doesn't do a lot of damage, but does a little knockback, but primarily he'll have that vision so he can spot any sneaky approaching orcs wherever he keeps those around. Both players now heading into Tier 2. Vapor with a pretty large Tier 1. Went with the double shooter boys, pretty well upgraded. I think, yeah, he did get a knob on one of them, but the others both have the big shooters. Then the Ludas themselves, upgrades for the Commando Knob and the Storm Boys, so he was certainly not headlong into Tier 2 by the time by the time Cyris came around. So won't be seeing an orc truck rush or anything like that, but all things considered, he's looking pretty good right now with what the Grey Knights have. Cyris has some reasonable firepower on the field, but with this Commando Knob and that Assassin's Knife, negating the Purgation Squad is very important, I think, for this kind of squishy orc pile here. Those flamers can do lots of damage. Commando Knob getting focused down. He thought he could get in on the Purgation Squad, but oh no! Even getting taken out with that sweet sync kill just as the Brother Captain upgraded to that Nemesis Force Halberd. That's always the perfect time you want a weapon to upgrade, is right in the middle of an engagement. That said, the Storm Boys got in, managed to force off that Purgation Squad, took a couple models out over there. Once again, these Slugger Boys over here causing some power harassment, breaking apart those power generators with that flamer, lighting everything on fire. Brother Captain single-handedly dealing with these Shooter Boy squads, though, now that he has that Nemesis Force Halberd. That thing is so nasty. Big melee damage, big splash damage as well. Looks like none of the generators are going to get saved except for the node itself. Commando Knob gets purchased back right now after falling. to that Force Halberd upgrade mid-engagement. Kind of overextended himself there, but Vapor's coming back. War Truck coming back onto the field after losing that big Rhino early in the match. Cyris is now coming back out here with a vengeance. Now upgraded both of his Stormtroopers with grenade launchers as well. Instead of having those what do they have? Do they have the hotshot rifles, or are they just normal las rifles? I'm not sure what to call all these different things that everyone has. I'm confused with terminology sometimes. I'm not good at 40k lore, you know that. Cyris capping on the back line with that Purgation Squad. Truck's gonna be coming out here shortly. Nice use of that ability on the Justicar there, slowing down that Commando Knob, trying to make sure he doesn't get into melee. Stormboy Knob comes onto the field though, and they jump right over that grenade barrage, getting in on everything, forcing back whatever they can. Grenade launcher's not going to be able to stand. Actually, a pretty melee-intensive build, proving to be quite a nuisance to the Grey Knight forces. Since Grey Knights don't have a real setup team or anything like that to kind of control the melee, it's pretty much up to the Purgation Squad. And as we saw, without the Purgation Squad, the Grey Knights simply get overrun. Both the Brother Captain and the Purgation Squad weren't around. I think either one of those being with the primary force would be very effective at least making the Orcs hesitate that kind of wog push that we see, them hitting that wog and going headlong into the match. Trip-a-Shot just buying time for these Slugga boys to burn more power down, not even wanting to engage that Brother Captain, instead just buying himself some time. Brother Captain now getting in on these Sluggas. Sluggas deciding they're just going to move right on in to the Strike Squad. Purgation now upgraded with the side cannons, but they will be losing that slow effect on their incinerators. Everything's hopping back into the truck and getting the heck out of there. And of course, this is my favorite truck model, man. Look at this thing; it's so awesome. Belongs on Fury Road, man. Oh, it's so spiky, so sharp, so chrome. Rhino's on the field with that las cannon. Purgation Squad with that, what is it? The side cannons. Not quite enough to deal with this truck. Did actually some pretty reasonable damage, but in order for his side cannons, since they can't fire on the move, of course. Oh man, look at those orc bits flying everywhere, getting obliterated by that las cannon. But yeah, the truck probably won't go down unless it's poorly microed against these side cannons, since they do have to kind of set up to get fired. Oh, and just as I say that, truck overextends. Las Rhino wasn't even needed. Oh, and a shooter squad goes down as well that was sitting inside of that truck. They kind of just sat inside the wreck of the truck expecting it to drive them away. They didn't realize that it was destroyed yet, and they just perished under a hail of side cannon fire. 245 to 337. Cyris bringing out the tier 2 hurt. Managed to take out that truck, got the squad inside of it as well. Storm Boys and the Commando Knob getting a nice retreat there between a surprise assault jump and a Trip-a-Shot. Keeping those Grey Knights pretty well under control. Shooter Boys way on the back line here. Cyris trying to keep that gen farm up, but losing power left and right. You can see, despite having some nice early victories in tier 2 here, he's still pumping out a lot of requisition to try to keep that gen farm up and keep this tech moving forward. Las Rhino once again out here. Buddha Boys upgraded with their beamy death gun now to try to deal with that Las Rhino. That Las Rhino actually hits infantry pretty hard. It doesn't often miss. You can see, oh man, there goes another shooter boy right there. Oh, there goes the beamy death gun. Let's see if Cyris noticed it. He's falling back, but will it get off another shot? It does. Takes out the Rhino. Storm Boys pretty well beat up. Commando Knob has to fall back as well. They did their job. They eliminated the vehicle, and now they're going to fall back and regroup. Brother Captain going to cap some points. Vapor still on the wrong side of the victory point battle as it stands right now. It's grenade launching Inquisitorial Stormtroopers doing what they can against these Slugga Boys. Between the grenade launchers and that Sarge grenade actually causing some reasonable losses. If they would have gotten out of there a bit sooner, that probably wouldn't have caused Cyris any requisition in return. But as it stands, the Knob's still out there. not enough to deter Vapor from capping that VP. Wants to get back into this game and try to get that advantage on victory points as soon as he can. Cyris now, oh, with the Vindicator Assassin. Without a vehicle on the field. Well, I guess we'll see if this Assassin really works out for him. More often than not, I feel like I see the Vindicator Assassin as a counter to vehicles more than a counter to infantry. Commander now getting the sneaky infiltration kit, so he'll actually be able to stay infiltrated more or less indefinitely. Purgation squad just blasting away at these shooter boys. They're taking pretty heavy damage. Oh man, cutting it very close right there as the Commando now finally got into melee range. But that cost quite a bit of requisition. 4 or 5 shooters need to get reinforced from that. Vindicator Assassin gets the cap, gets the triple once again, and has to fall back 202 to 300 right now for Cyris. Justicar on that strike squad goes down. Or no, the Justicar didn't go down. That was just a model. I thought it was the Justicar. I'm just used to those commanders being the first model to go down on any squad. Tankbuster's out here as well, which is kind of surprising. Cyris, oh well, I guess that might actually be a good deterrent. Cyris is going for a Dreadnought, so perhaps he was expecting the Dread. And if nothing else, these guys are going to pay for themselves by taking out some power anyways. Vindicator's going to try to do something to deter these Tankbusters as it stands. Shooter boys now getting up there, and I think at the sight of the Tankbusters, Cyris decides to go tier 3 instead of getting himself that Dreadnought. With both the Beamy Death Gun and those Tankbusters, the Dreadnought would be pretty well easily controlled in the center of the map. Those grenade launchers really actually finding themselves pretty effective at slowing down the Orc melee advance, buying enough time for those Purgation squad members to get in some good damage. But again, a surprise attack from the Commando Knob. Stabby, stabby. Forces off that pile. Oh no, it looks like the Luda boys were being neglected over here. And I think one more swing. Let's see. Oh no. Down goes the squad. That Force Halberd's nothing to joke around with. Vindicator Assassin actually, I guess the Commando Knob tried to grapple in. How much, if that Vindicator had 250 HP, maybe he was trying to get that Assassinate off and take out that Vindicator once and for all, but that grapple was perhaps a bit overzealous as he found himself right in the thick of the Grey Knight army. 171 to 287 as it stands right now. Both players heading into tier 3. Cyris probably looking like he's going to be bringing a tier 3 squad onto the field before much longer. Vapor will have enough resources to do so as soon as he hits that tier as well. Vapor looks like he might be struggling a bit now that all these bigger, high damage Grey Knight units have been coming onto the field. With the side cannons, with the Vindicator Assassin, with that Force Halberd, he's finding a hard time getting an approach in without taking some pretty heavy losses. As we can see right there, that was probably, again, an overzealous jump forward without any support for those Storm Boys. I guess he really wanted to get on that Vindicator Assassin. Vapor now bringing a tank onto the field. He'll have to be careful with that tank, of course, considering both the side cannons and the Vindicator are on the field. But as it stands, I think that should be a pretty good purchase. If nothing else, having a vehicle on the field forces those side cannons and the Vindicator Assassin to be at one particular point on the map to try to deal with that vehicle, so you can kind of predict where your opponent's forces will be. That's always something good to see. There goes one shooter boy. Actually, keeping those shooter boys at just 3 models is where most of the damage comes from, since they have the 2 big shooters and that knob. Oh man! Kaboom going off right there, knocking everything all over the place. That's one of my favorite abilities. It's so cool. Is that the shooter boy squad that went down right there? Second shooter boy going down to the brother captain. Brother captain goes down as well in return. Oh man, and both players losing squads right here because it looks like that Purgation squad's dying on top of everything else right there. Brother Captain and Purgation down for Cyris. Shooter Boy squad down for Vapor. Both sides getting smaller and smaller armies, but more elite armies as we head into Tier 3. Strike squad over here looking like it's going to be heading to Tier 3 in just a moment. And ooh, we have some Paladins coming on the field, those big nasty Grey Knight Terminators. Commando Knob looking like he wants to get into melee, but he's actually so low, I don't think he can win this fight. Kaboom goes down. Let's see if it'll go off in time, but it does take out the Commando Knob. It does do damage to everything, including the Commando Knob. So when your Commando's very low on health, you gotta remember that that Kaboom will take him out as well. A second tank coming on the field. Probably want to get some knobs instead of that second tank, but maybe not, considering there are two squads, or actually just one squad rather, of grenade launching stormtroopers. So maybe knobs would be a better choice.
Go ahead, boss.
I initially thought that both of the stormtrooper squads were still on the field, and that might have been enough knockback to really control knobs pretty well, whereas the tank would be under less threat. Man, so much power has been burned in this game. 214 to 141, a triple cap now in favor of Vapor, trying to close that gap out. Looted tank. A pair of them hanging out in the center. Paladins find themselves on the wrong side of two tanks. They quickly realize they have to fall back, but these Slugger Boys looking like they took a bit too much damage on approach. Ooh, however, that was the Vindicator Assassin that just went down to those Storm Boys. Bomber Boys going off as well. But that lone, oh man, those Shooter Boys probably not getting out of there. Let's see if he manages to get out. 30 HP. A few more shots down to about 1, and down he goes. They got the Vindicator Assassin, but they probably should have instantly retreated as soon as that went down. Still a triple cap for Vapor, however, as Cyris is trying to figure out how to approach this Orc force. He is getting a Rhino, so we'll probably see another Las Cannon Rhino on the field. There are some tank busters, however, to try to make some quick work of that Rhino, so it's going to have to be very careful. Tanks are having to fall back. Never mind those tank busters. Man, that Brother Captain Nemesis Force Halberd, if that's not a mouthful for a weapon, has been really doing some work. That's at least the third squad I think he's taken out. He got the Lewis, he got the Shooter Boys, and then on top of that, he got just now those tank busters. Ooh! And then just busted a tank. That was, of course, highly helped to the Paladins right there. But as it stands, that's one tank down. Las Cannon's getting upgraded for this Rhino. This Rhino's going to go tank hunting right now. And it actually, I think, will outpace this looted tank. So one shot goes down. Psy-Cannon is still firing away. If the Rhino could just get one more parting shot here. And that it does. Down goes the second tank. Vapor now suddenly down to just a single squad of Slugger Boys. 75 to 141. And I think this game might be just about over for Vapor. Grey Knight Terminators onto the field can easily make short work of those Slugger Boys. They are level 4 and fully upgraded, but Paladins don't mess around with those Thunderhammers, man. They are some of the nastiest of the Terminators. Cyris falling back to regroup, but he needs to make sure these victory points don't fall out of his hands again. He is sitting at only 75 victory points. Vapor has a big pool of resource. Okay, there he goes. He goes and gets himself some knobs. Knob's going to be pretty effective, at least at dealing with any single one of these Grey Knight threats, especially these injured Paladins. I think Knob will be able to go toe-to-toe with them. Slugger Boys falling back once again. Commando Knob getting some capping in on the far side, though, giving Cyris the runaround despite only having a couple squads. We do have the Terminator Librarian out here. He's going to go deal with the Commando Knob. It looks like these Orcs are going to put some pressure on the Paladins and make sure they can't just start capping willy-nilly. 51 to 141 right now, though, and Cyris needs to get some victory points. A 2-0 cap as it stands. Cyris could be in a bit of trouble here. He does need to get a cap almost immediately. Vapor does need to get a second squad on the field. Maybe get some commandos or something he could call in right now. He's doing everything he can in his power. 24 to 141. Commando Nob's trying to do anything he can to keep them from capping. So Brother Cap needs to go cap elsewhere. He could easily go run around the map right now. Well, I guess not anymore now that there are Nobs on the field. Rocks get called in to prevent the cap. 15 points remaining. And I think that's going to be just about it. Let's see. Cyris, is he anywhere in... The Nobs are going to decap the center with using meaner and greener. There's no infantry on the field, and despite having the superior force at this stage in the game, Vapor managed to squeeze it out just barely in those last moments with some pretty serious control on the capping. Used the grappling hook to knock everything back, then dropped rocks on the point. 500 red to win the game. Even if you don't take out a squad, that's probably well worth it. So that's the match. That was some good fun. We saw 3 Rhinos that game. I guess the third time was the charm. Boy, you really think this gunner should probably get down once the las cannon comes up, because he's going to get shot right in the back of the head with a las cannon. That's probably not fun for anyone. His head will just disappear as a las cannon fires through it to destroy a tank. Woo! I did not think Vapor was going to pull that out. I thought once that final engagement went poorly for him, that was it, but he managed just barely to keep it on. Cyris kind of let up his map control. He didn't have his 2 Stormtrooper squads on the field anymore, and he lost a lot as well. Let's see, he lost the strike squad to the rocks there at the end, but yeah, all he had was the Stormtroopers, the strike squad. I guess he had 2 squads, or 2 types of Librarian on the field, but he should have just gone and tried to get the decap on that natural VP on the far side. All in all, though, good play from both players. There are a couple slip-ups there, a couple micro mistakes for lost squads, but this Brother Captain, man, was shredding some orcs with that halberd. You can see he's level 9. Level 9 to level 5. Pretty impressive from the Brother Captain. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the game. That was probably the last monthly Rumble match I'm going to cast right there, but it was a fun one. Feel free to stop by on social media. Find me on Twitter, Facebook, Steam, whatever you use. I've got them all. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and this is Red-Rupee. I'll catch you guys next time.